Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to the Release Highlights live event for version 24 of the Google Ads API. I'm Mattia Tomazone. I think you know me by now if you've been to any of our Release Highlight live events. I'm a developer relations engineer and I work on the Google Ads API. So, first of all, as usual, I like to start by going through our release schedule. As you know, we've been moving to a monthly release cadence instead of a quarterly release cadence, which means that we have a new API release each month. And this is the release for the month of April. Now, it's also the first release of Q2, which means that it is a major release. Now, what does exactly mean that it is a major release? It's not necessarily about the number of features that are in there, but there are two main differences between major and minor releases. One is that a major release may contain what we refer to as breaking changes, so changes that require you to update your code before being able to use the new version. And we'll get to it soon, but there are a few in this release. The other main difference between a major release and a minor release is that when v24.1 comes out next month, you're not going to be upgrading to v24.1, but if you upgrade, say, from v20 to v24, you will get all the features that are in v24.1. So a major release is what you upgrade to, whereas a minor release is the set of features that are included in that major release when they come out. So v24 is a major release, which means that it has a bunch of new features, and that when you upgrade, let's say you upgrade to v24 in June, you will also get what is going to be included in v24.1, which is due next month, but you will get the v24.2 features that will come out in June, basically for free. So, as I always like to say during our live events, we changed recently the release schedule of our new API versions, but we didn't change the sunset schedule. So we do sunsets once a quarter. Wait a sec. So I was saying we do sunsets once a quarter, and we have one coming up in June. It's going to be for v20. So I know there's plenty of time. There's 2 months now until v20 is sunset, but I would say it's a good time now to be upgrading. If you're still using v20 and you're thinking about upgrading to a newer version, well, a new major version just came out. You know v20 is going to be sunset in a while, so it's a good time to start thinking about upgrading from v20. Now, again, something that I also like to do when we do our release highlight events is to give you a few updates on things that are going on, not just in the API itself, but around the API. So updates on things that we have been doing as the Ads DevRel team, but also updates on things that are going on in the Google Ads space and in the Google Ads API space. So, API releases are just one of the things we do, but we do a lot of other things to make sure that the developer experience with the API is as comfortable as possible. Something we recently released and we are very happy about, for instance, is the Google Advertising and Measurement Developers Hub. So this is meant to be your first stop when wanting to get some information about all the API that we support for you to handle advertising and measurement topics. So this means that it's a one-stop shop for not just the Google Ads API, but also, for instance, for Google Ads scripts, or for the DV360 API, or for the new Data Manager API that we recently released, but also for measurement APIs like, the Analytics API. Or again, it's also about the publisher side of advertising APIs. So say, for instance, AdMob or Ad Manager. So the reason why we wanted to do this is that we know that you as developers also use a lot of our APIs in conjunction. So if you are trying to understand exactly how to work with the Google Ads API and the DV360 API together, or with the Analytics API together, this is your first stop. And yeah, it's a starting point, basically. Then another piece of content that we just released and that I am really proud of because it works really well, and I'm super happy for my teammates to be doing this, is the new episode of the Ads Devcast. So in this episode specifically, Corey and Matt talk about all the developer tools that we have been releasing to help your developer workflows. For instance, it's about the MCP servers that we maintain for the Google Ads API and the Analytics API for you to implement AI-based workflows and for you to, streamline your development workflows and be as productive as possible using AI tools. So I recommend you check it out. It's pretty interesting, and I know Corey's been doing great work on this, and I'm super happy for Matt to be joining this because they've been doing great work, and it's super helpful and super instructive. The final topic I want to address, which is not necessarily related to Google Ads API releases, is about the multi-factor authentication that we are rolling out this week. So this is about increasing the security of the access on the Google Ads API. So whenever you have the OAuth workflow, what we call the user authentication flow, the one where users have to go through the OAuth flow where they have the window that says, allow this application to access the Google Ads API on my behalf. If you are using that, starting this week, we're rolling out a feature where users who are allowing the API to access their accounts have to have multi-factor authentication enabled. So this is only affecting newly being created refresh tokens, so new accounts being added to your application. So if you use a service account, they will not be affected. Existing refresh tokens are not going to be affected, but be aware of the fact that new users of your applications will be required to have multi-factor authentication enabled on their Google accounts. And this is exactly for improve the security of whoever is accessing their Google Ads accounts with your applications. There's a blog post we just published about this change. We're going to leave a link to this in the comments. But yeah, this is, it's not really impacting that much of your workflows. It's more on your users to improve their security, but just be aware of this because it's happening and it's being rolled out soon. Now, before we dive into whatever is being released in v24, I also always like to take a quick look back at features that we released recently in the previous versions, because you may have missed some of the features that we release. I know we release a bunch of features every time, and some of these you may be aware of, some of these you may be not. So I like to take a quick look back at what we released recently. And actually, this is one of my favorite features, not just because I have worked on this personally, but also because I know developers have been asking for this forever. I started working on the Google Ads API before v1 came out, and I remember that developers were asking for this. So this was released in v23.1, so it took 23 versions of the API to have this, but it's finally out. It's the ability to upload videos to YouTube and then create video assets with them to be used in Google Ads. I'm super happy about this, and I've seen the adoption of this grow pretty quickly, which means that I feel like the developer community is also interested in this. So it's been out for a couple months already, but if you've missed this, just take a look. It's pretty interesting. But now, without further ado, let's get to the new features in v24. It's quite a lot of features because, as you know, it's a major release, so the number of features is usually bigger than what we have in minor releases. And there's also a few interesting ones that I think will make it both easier and more efficient for you to be working with the API. So first of all, I know one of the main campaign types that you use with the Google Ads API as developers is shopping campaigns. And When you track the conversions of your shopping campaigns, you generally want to know not just which product your users clicked on when viewing an ad, but also what purchases your ads led to and what products did they purchase. So this is exactly what conversions with cart data are about. So what this helps you do is measure not just which products and which ads with the products triggered a conversion, but also which sales actually happened because of those conversions. So in the new cart data sales view report, you can segment conversion metrics by products sold. So you can actually measure which of your products are getting more sales from your ads. So you can actually match what you're spending with ads with actual sales, so with the returns on your ads investment. This is also another pretty big feature, and it's also a long-term one. It's not just about what's going on in v24, but it's a long-term change that will see its full effect in September. This is because right now we started the long process of moving dynamic search ads to AA Max. So as of now, starting with v24, you are no longer able to create ad groups with type search dynamic ads. So this is the first step in migrating from dynamic search ads to AA Max, and the full migration is going to be completed in September. But right now you are no longer able to create new search dynamic ads. So if your application uses dynamic search ads, just be aware that you are no longer able to create this, and you should start considering the migration to AA Max soon, because it's going to happen anyways in September. And this was a breaking change, but also this one is kind of a breaking change too, because as I was saying earlier, it requires you to make a change to the code that uses this feature if you are using it and you want to upgrade to v24. So if you are using the shareable ad preview service for PMAX, you know that it used to take an asset group identifier. It was just the ID of an asset group. Now, we recently added the support for creating previews for ad groups as well. And the feature that takes the ad group to create a preview for that takes the resource name of the ad group, which is consistent with what we do everywhere else in the API. So we actually changed the shareable ad preview service for asset groups to take the resource name of an asset group instead of just the ID. This makes it consistent with all of the rest of the API, but it is also technically a breaking change, because if you were using the shareable ad preview service with the asset group identifier, you now have to change the way that field is called in your code. So it's just about making the whole API consistent and more ergonomic, because when you want to pass objects around to other services, you always use the resource names. So this was an inconsistency in the API that we fixed, but it requires you to change the code if you are upgrading to v24. So technically is a breaking change. Another one, which is a pretty cool new feature, is also in the video space. If you remember, like just now I said that the developer community at large was asking us about, the ability to manage videos, to manage video campaigns, to do things with videos in the API. And historically, this has always been a no on our end, but things are changing. So you can now upload videos, and starting from v24, you can also mutate video ads. So the video responsive ad info, which didn't used to be mutable, is now mutable in the Google Ads API. Because of this, we also made the business name and logo images fields in it required. And although this is basically a new feature that has been requested by developers forever, it also technically is a breaking change, because by definition, making a field required is a breaking change. If you were, changing or creating video responsive ad info objects without setting the business name or logo images field, you will have to change the code. So I have to tell you that this is a breaking change, even if, from a developer and from an adoption point of view, it's really a really cool new feature. Though it is a breaking change because it requires you to change the code. But I guess if you have to change the code to adopt a cool new feature, then it's a good, excuse to be changing your code. Now, something else that we released, and as you know, I'm always very interested in the video space because it's the one I work with the most. But I also work a lot with demand gen, which is very much entwined with the video space, is VTC optimization, so view through conversion optimization enabled. It's a field in your demand gen and also in the app campaigns that allows you to enable the optimization for view through conversions. So a view through conversion is a conversion that happens when a customer views an ad but doesn't necessarily interact with it, so it doesn't click. So it's not an immediate conversion, but it's a conversion that happens at a later time. And we have some AI magic that basically optimizes your ads for this, and you can now enable that through the API. This is done by setting the campaign field view through conversion optimization enabled flag to true. It's not set to true by default, but you can set it now via the API. And now let me catch my breath because there were a lot of new features in v24, but it's time for questions. So since it's time for a question, I will also bring up someone I already mentioned earlier, which is my teammate Corey. Hello, sir.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
I don't hear you though.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, let me do this. No.
Test, test. If anyone can hear me, I think we may be having some technical difficulties. I'm gonna just message Mattia on the side the questions and I'll have him answer.
Of course, we are live, so we have technical issues because we're live. All right, so just go ahead and read the questions and answer them. Okay, fair enough. So a question we have is, will existing dynamic search ads keep serving even if new ones can no longer be created? And the answer is, it's fairly easy. It's yes, of course they will. You just cannot create any new ones, but the existing ones will keep serving until September when they will be migrated to AI Max. So this is not the final date, it's still to be confirmed, but if you have existing dynamic search ads, I would recommend you start migrating them to AA Max. Okay, let me check if we have any more questions. Yes, we do. I noticed, there's a question on Discord. I noticed, especially on new accounts, that campaigns launched via the API do not reach their full span for up to 4 days. If we copy it and launch manually, then it starts sending normally. Is this expected behavior for API versus UI? Any way to whitelist the MCC or something? It's a good question. I don't have an immediate answer for, so I will follow up on Discord about this. Okay. I am actually looking around I have Discord on this screen, I have YouTube on that screen, and I don't see any more questions. So I think that's it for question right now, which means that what is left for me to do right now is to thank you all for watching this. And as usual, as I say, feedback is a gift. So any feedback you have on how we do this event, on what you would like to see in our live events, on the API in general, on how we can make it better for you as developers, any feedback is more than welcome. Let us know how we can do better. But other than that, I will just thank you all for watching, and I will see you next month, very likely. Or I will see you around on Discord or in all the other places where we reach out to our developer community. Thank you all.